When you think of the first Europeans to settle America, you probably think of Christopher Columbus or Leif Erikson. But there's one person you probably do not think of, and that is Prince Madoc ab Owain Gwynedd. This explorer is rumored to have discovered and settled in America 300 years before Columbus. But are these stories true? Welcome to the YouTube channel The Wig, and today we are going to study the history of Welsh settlement in America. According to legend, a Welsh prince was caught in a feud with his brothers. Escaping this flight, this prince, who's named Madoc, sailed across the Atlantic until he found America. Returning to Wales, Madoc gathered settlers for the colonialization of this newly discovered territory and set off with ships into the unknown. Further extensions of the tale mention Madoc settling present-day Mobile, Alabama, where the settlers scattered all across the southeast and went as far up as the Missouri River. At first, this story seems like an old legend that holds zero credence. After all, the first written account of this event was transcribed in 1582. That is 400 years after the event supposedly took place. Despite this, there actually is some evidence to back up Welsh settlement in America. In Alabama, there are structures supposedly in the Welsh style that the local Cherokee claimed were built by white people. One of the biggest pieces of evidence I found while researching this video is found in DeSoto State Park, Alabama. Inside the park are caves built by humans, and it appears that it predates Columbus, and according to AlabamaStateParks.com, historians say that Indians could not have built the caves due to the fact that none of the tribes were familiar with the art of excavation. This means it was likely built by a European before Columbus, right? Additionally, the article by Alabama State Parks further notes that none of the Indians in the area worked with stone or used the lubricants that held together a crumbling wall found at the site. At another state park, this time found in Georgia, one can see the remnants of an ancient wall. I actually had the pleasure of visiting this wall at Fort Mountain State Park, and it's incredibly intriguing. It stretches for 855 feet, but seems to hold zero defensive purposes. In Cherokee legend, the wall was built by a people group known as the Moon-Eyed people. They were supposedly blind in the day and could only venture out at night. I'm not going to get into too much detail on the full story of the Moon-Eyed people. It's a pretty cool story. If you do want to check it out, I highly recommend it. But anyways, what makes the Moon-Eyed people relevant to Welsh settlement in America? Well, certain versions of the tale of the Moon-Eyed people claim that the Moon-Eyed people were white. This means stories of white Indians have been circulated across Cherokee tribes. Additionally, near the Tennessee and Missouri rivers, European travelers also supposedly met a tribe of Indians who could speak a language similar to Welsh, called the Mandans. So the theory is that the Welsh traveled north, encountering the Cherokees in places like Mobile, Alabama, and Georgia, before settling as far north as the Missouri River. Further tales of the Mandans claim that they adopted similar practices as the Europeans, like the fact that they laid out their streets in squares. Sadly, though, we cannot confirm if the Mandans had Welsh ancestry or not, because they were later wiped out by disease. One massive proponent of all the stories and theories that I've mentioned was a governor of Tennessee named John Sevier. He actually noted DeSoto State Park as a site of Welsh settlement and wrote one version of the legendary Moon-Eyed people story based off an interview with a Cherokee chief. He also would later reportedly find armor belonging to the Welsh that had the Welsh coat of arms inscribed upon it. Anyways, John Sevier would interview Cherokee chiefs and try to learn about all these mysterious structures scattered across the southeast. And here is an excerpt from one of his accounts. Just a quick thing before I go into the account. This account's worded weird, so if I say weird things, it's not because I'm messing up, it's because the account is just written with some strange language, and I also may mess up when I say this, just because, it's strange language. Anyways, after the exchange had been settled, I took an opportunity of inquiring of a venerable old chief named Okanostodo. I probably pronounced that wrong. Then, and for nearly 60 years, had been a ruling chief of the Cherokee Nation. If he could inform me of the people that had left such signs of fortifications in their country, and particularly the ones on the bank of the Hiwassee River, the old warrior briefly answered me as follows. It is handed down by our forefather that the works were made by white people who had formerly inhabited the country, while the Cherokees had lived low in the country now called South Carolina, and that a war existed between the two nations for many years. At length, it was discovered that the whites were making a number of large boats, which induced the Cherokees to suppose that they intended to descend the Tennessee River. They then collected their whole band of warriors and took the shortest and most convenient route to the Muscle Shoals in order to intercept them down the river. In a few days, the boats hove in sight, and a warm combat ensued with various success for several days. At length, the whites proposed to the Indians that they would exchange prisoners and cease hostilities. They would leave the country and never more return, which was acceded to, and after the exchange, parted in friendship. The whites then descended the Tennessee to the Ohio, and then down to the big river, the Mississippi. Then up to the muddy river, Missouri, then up that river to a very great distance. They are now on some of its branches, but they are no longer a white people. They are now all become Indians, and look like the other red people of the country. I then asked him if he had ever heard of any of his ancestors say what nation of people those white people belonged to. He answered, I've heard my grandfather and other old people say that they were a people called Welsh, that they had crossed the great water and landed near the mouth of Alabama River, and were finally driven to the heads of its water and even to the Hiwassee River by the Mexican Indians, who had been driven out of their country by the Spaniards. So yeah, that is an account by John Sevier of Welsh settlement in America. Whether it is reliable and true or not is up for the viewer to decide. Thanks to the work of people like John Sevier, many believe the tales of Madoc, Owain, Gwynedd as fact. The Daughters of the American Revolution even put up a plaque in Mobile, Alabama to commemorate the supposed Welsh settlement of America. At the end of the day, though, no one is sure whether the Welsh settled America or not. Personally, I remain relatively unconvinced that the Welsh actually settled America, mainly because I struggle to get past the fact that people in medieval ships were able to go all the way around Florida to the Gulf of Mexico and into Mobile Bay, Alabama. I don't know. It could be true. There is a lot of hard evidence to back that up. Personally, I think the biggest piece of evidence is the DeSoto Caves in Alabama. I think that is a massive piece of evidence to prove that the Welsh really were settling in America. But again, I'm sure there's evidence and disproving evidence, both for Welsh settlement in America. Either way, though, this story is still greatly historically significant, as Queen Elizabeth I of England would actually use the tale of Madoc, Owain, Gwynedd as an excuse to settle Virginia during the beginning of English settlement of the New World. Well, anyways, guys, that is the end of the video. And tell me what you think in the comments section below. Do you think that the Welsh really discovered America and settled the area in modern-day Mobile, Alabama? Again, tell me what you think in the comments section below. If you do not believe the Welsh settled America, what is your alternative theories for how all these structures were built? And again, that is the end of the video, and I hope you enjoyed.